We've recently had the latest quarterly earnings from software giant Salesforce. The stock price has moved out to fresh all-time highs. So is there more to come, or actually is it getting somewhat overextended? I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at Salesforce, given the performance. If we take this chart out, so we can see just over the last, 5 years or so, the stock is up by more than threefold. Like plenty of companies, lots of volatility over the last 18 months. But ultimately, we have seen it just briefly push out to fresh all-time highs for the price. So I thought, let's take a look at it in a bit more detail. Let's have a look at what those recent earnings were like, what the expectation is for the next quarter, talk about that, then come back and look at the charts and the technicals and see where it might go next. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought this time around on the Stocks channel, we take a look at Salesforce. I think it's been a great performer over the years. It might be a business that a lot of us are familiar with, having worked with it in companies. So I thought they just had their earnings. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. And of course, we'll jump onto the charts and take a look at that in a bit more detail as well. As usual, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it does help support the channel. It means we can continue to push out lots of different content on the various stocks that we look at throughout the week. Okay, let's get into it and take a look at Salesforce in a bit more detail. So just in case you're not familiar with it, it's a software company, and more specifically, customer relationship management software business, founded back in 1999, and it IPO'd, came to the market so you could buy stock in Salesforce from June 2004. So we've just had, back in August, second quarter earnings for Salesforce, and they beat expectations. The market was expecting earnings per share in the second quarter of around 92 cents. The number came in actually at $1.48, so comfortably ahead of forecast there. Plus, on top of this, revenue was up 23% year on year compared to the same quarter in the previous year, so good numbers all round. The company also gave some guidance on the next quarter, what to expect. And again, this was about 10% above what the market was expecting in quarter three. So Salesforce reckons that earnings per share will be around 92 cents in the current quarter. Not surprisingly, this has all been well received by the stock market. This all seems like pretty good news. So far, year to date, Salesforce's stock is up by 21% in 2021. And just recently, the stock moved out and touched fresh all-time highs, so breaking through to levels never seen before for Salesforce. And when we look at the chart side of things, a breakout to all-time highs is traditionally considered as bullish. It shows that investors are happier to pay higher and higher prices for the stock in anticipation, of course, of further growth to come. But has it gone far enough? We'll jump on the charts in a second, but first of all, let's talk about some of the levels to watch. So the most immediate hurdle on the upside, it's an obvious one, it's that all-time high. So $286 for the stock. After that, we're probably looking at psychological levels like $300 next. Lots of support left on the downside. You'll see it in a minute. We've got quite a good trend over recent months, but the most recent low for me, most important one recently, September low, coming in at $250 for the stock. But as usual, let's put some color on these numbers. Let's jump onto the charts and take a look at the technicals in a bit more depth. So I thought let's start things off with a 50-day moving average. So slightly longer term moving average than perhaps the one we normally look at. I think 50-day is always a popular one. It's 10 trading weeks. And of course, with moving averages, they're used to try and identify potential new trends. So when the price moves above the moving average, like here in April 2020, with the price moving through about 160, that was a buy signal suggesting a new trend was starting. And when the price falls below the moving average, we jump forward to November 2020, the price fell through $250. That's a sell signal. It's been a bit mixed, I think, perhaps in the first half of this year, as the stock price was somewhat sideways. But the last signal, or the last couple of signals we've had a buy signal here in May of this year, then dipped very briefly and gave a couple of sell signals in August before spinning back around and giving a buy signal. It's interesting that so far during September, the low for September has held above the 50-day moving average. So at the moment, the price is above the moving average. So from a moving average point of view, the price is in an uptrend. If we take a look at the RSI down here at the bottom, typically this is used to signal overbought, oversold situations in the market where a market has perhaps gone too far, too fast in one direction or another, up or down. The latest signal we had for the RSI here on Salesforce was an overbought signal from about the 23rd of September on that sharp move out, that first move to all-time highs. So that was suggesting that perhaps the price has gone a little bit too far. We've seen the price back off a bit since then. The RSI has dropped back into the normal range and is about 56%. So we're not getting too much from the RSI now. But what I'd like to look at is the price action and the trend. Let's take a look at that. If we go back with the data we've got here, I mean, clearly the longer term trend for Salesforce is up. You know, we have a succession of higher highs, higher lows, quite a bit of volatility. Even over the last 12 months, we saw it, this time last year, push out to fresh all-time highs, and then saw it decline quite heavily into March of this year before turning around again. I think what's interesting for me is what has happened over the last 12 months. Let's zoom things in. So we had these old highs set just over a year ago, up around $284 for the stock. That was the high, and it did slip. You know, it slid by $84 or so back towards $200 in March of this year. Clearly, we've seen a big base build from 200 to 210 for the stock, and then that move recently, just very briefly, out to another fresh all-time high, just below 286. So I think it's interesting here. You know, when markets break out through levels that have been a problem in the past, it can be a suggestion that perhaps a new trend is starting. I think probably what we'd like to see here, what a technical analyst would like to see, a bit more confirmation perhaps, another move through 286 could well be the signal that, okay, now it is actually gathering momentum and we can start to target, 300, 325, those sort of levels. So it is really interesting to watch. I mean, clearly for me, it is in a trend since March of this year. If I pick up on the trend line since May, we've got a shorter term trend chugging along over the last 4 months or so. For me, good support in that trend if we were looking at it from a short to medium term trading point of view. Good support at sort of 250 to 260. So for that trend to remain intact, we really wouldn't want to see it take out 250. So looking to see if that can hold over the next few months. And if we get a break through 286, then I think plenty of technical analysts would start targeting $300 plus. So really interesting, positive earnings, a positive outlook for the next quarter. The trend is positive. The fact it's pushed out, albeit briefly, to fresh all-time highs is positive. And now it's whether it can build on this and continue this uptrend from those May lows. So really interesting stock to watch. That's it for this update in Salesforce. Great earnings, a great performance by the stock. We'll see if they can continue this trend into year end and beyond. We'll come back and do an update. But for now, from me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your investing. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.